All right, guys, what is up? Welcome to a new daily analysis video. And what can we say, man? And there we have it, sub 90K, what we have been waiting for patiently, especially in the last 2 weeks or so. Now it's finally happened. So, let's review that a little bit. This is from last week's, one of last week's videos, right? Daily member update from Wednesday, February 19, 2025, where I went over this. I went over that as well in the video before that. But this is what we have been waiting for. So now it's playing out. So let's start with a Bitcoin and then go from there. I'm going to stick with the higher time frames because obviously people will be most interested in the higher time frames right now. So that's what we are going to focus on. So a quick recap of what we've been discussing so far is that we needed to deviate below these equal lows here. And now finally it's happening. As you know, I've been saying that have been becoming increasingly confident that we needed to take out these equal lows. And I've also been saying that, if we get there, this is what I've been saying, that it will not happen like an SFP like this. We will probably take some time, deviate below it, and then go back up, right? And it's also why what you see here in this squibble that is like done on purpose, right? Done on purpose because I do believe we need to take some time here. In last week's live stream, I basically, definitely worth to watch. I broke down market structure extensively and basically explained why this was most likely to happen. So all in all, long story short, watch those previous resources or even, the previous daily analysis videos to see the extensive reasoning. I'm not gonna explain in hindsight why this is happening because I explained it ahead of time. So if you want to know why this is happening, watch the previous videos, watch last week's live stream. And, I don't want to waste too much time on saying things that have already been said. Plus, it's just too easy to do hindsight analysis. All right. So, we are now well on track on our plan. And, I think one last final thing to recap is that, the market structure that I've been looking at, the main one, not that one, this one on the weekly, is now playing out, right? And that's also in the live stream. I discussed why we needed to go to at least the 382. So that's 87K, which we are now hitting. And basically what I said is that this is like your bottoming area. Let me get that nice. This is your bottoming area, I said in that live stream, right? And now we're hitting that. So the question is, okay, where are we actually going to bottom? Are we going to bottom, right? Maybe that's the first question. And yes, my belief is still that we're going to bottom, right? It's, let me just get this one in here. Let me get that clean. Yes, my belief is that still that we're going to bottom. And the reason being is, basically all the things that I said last week and the weeks before is that we're still in this high time frame range right here, right? Nothing has changed. Let me get this one off. And this was the play we were looking for. We were looking for a sweep of those equal lows. We were looking for a deviation below it to form a bottom there, followed by, a move back up. So now that it's happening, why would I change my bias, right? I don't see anything yet to invalidate the idea that we must do this. So, this is your deviation area, what we're looking at. Deviation right there. Very nice price action so far. And, this is necessary, right? And I don't know, like this is, I'm not going to say this is going to last until April, but this is just somewhere, this deviation area that you're looking at. And we're just looking for a deviation to happen somewhere here, followed by a move up, right? So that bias hasn't changed, and I'm not gonna lower my, or at least I'm not saying this has to be the bottom, by the way, right? Could be, you saw where I'm looking at, could be, 80K, not out of the question, like something you must entertain. Although I would not be surprised to just have it linger here. But regardless, I think the main takeaway here is that we have some time, right? So we don't need to long this straight away and say, oh, we really need to get in along here. We probably don't. There's probably some time, because one thing people often forget, and why I said, everyone's looking at this SFP. I've been saying it's not going to work out, the SFP. Reason being is you have equal lows here. You have a shit ton of liquidity, and people forget that with that kind of liquidity, you don't just, an SFP like this doesn't take that liquidity. You need also time, right? You need some time for market makers, fill their position, take it back up. So that's what we're going to give the market makers now, and we're just going to play with them. So long story short, everything still according to plan. We have this higher time frame market structure that we're looking at right here, right on the weekly low, weekly high. We're looking to put in a higher low here, right? So we're looking to put in that higher low somewhere within this area. Let's say right here, somewhere here, like wherever. You get the point, higher low, so that after that price can continue to go up. So my bias is still for higher. That's the high time frame thing, which means that in this area you're looking for bounces, right? So let's dive a little bit more into that by looking at pivot zones. So pivot zones, and I'm going to stick to the weekly ones because we're discussing higher time frame in this video. Now on the weekly, we are almost reaching the weekly P2 zone low. Now, you know that I've been waiting. What I've been saying is that I would prefer to, and I've been saying that for a while, to see the weekly P2 zone low hit before we continue higher again, right? Because as you know, this means that only 20% of weeks get towards these lows, and oftentimes it signals exhaustion, especially in ranging environments, right? Because the last time it happened here was that range high, and then you can see massive mean reversion, right? Because it just signals, I assume it signals a lot of liquidations, a lot of exhaustion, and price will want to revert back to statistical norms, right? To the mean, a mean reversion. So that's what I'm waiting for here as well. I would love for this to happen, for that weekly P2 zone to be hit, signal that exhaustion there, and hit it back up, get everyone scared. You already see, bull runners over trades or posts all over crypto Twitter. It's like fucking bingo again on crypto Twitter, man. It's like, oh, bulls must hold this, otherwise we're fucked. Like you see all these classic posts again. There's really not much to worry about yet. So, if I just go a little bit further back, let me just get the P2 zones on. When I go back 50 zones, let's see if I have that kind of data. Then, the only reason this would not work, these kind of mean reversions, is if you are in an impulsive stage, right? So here, this impulsive phase, here you reach the edge of the P2 zone, you have the mean reversion there. Here you reach the edge of the P2 zone, you have a mean reversion here, although not that far. And here it didn't happen because you're in an impulsive stage, right? Impulsive stage. This is a very much impulse because it takes you from one range to the next, right? So you're in this impulsive stage. So obviously there it doesn't work. You have mean reversion environments and trading environments that both require different strategies. But in this case, we're clearly in a mean reversion environment, right? This is range lows. This is a range right here. Unless we're gonna, absolutely break down like crazy, which I don't think is gonna happen. There's a good chance that once you leave this, that next week is gonna be, result into, either some chop next week followed by a mean reversion, or just a mean reversion next week, right? But somewhere in the next 2 weeks, I would say you would expect a mean reversion to start happening. But pay special attention to the lows, because I think we're in a bull market, right? So what that means is that if price gets towards these lows, that means that only 20% of weeks, of bearish weeks, see you move that far down. And combine that with the fact that we're in a high time frame uptrending environment, right? Uptrending environment. So look at the last times we hit those lows. So this is the last time we hit those lows. I mean, that was a buy, right? Didn't take us all the way there, but this one was also not like, this is at a much better location, obviously. Then the last time before that was here, right? Which was the de facto bottom of the last consolidation. The time before that was here, which was very close to the bottom. And then here also resulted in a nice bounce. So but obviously not a enormous bounce, but this was at the start of the consolidation, right? You need to apply a little bit of TA to this, obviously. Still resulted in a nice bounce, but what I'm trying to say is that obviously, like, if you leave these pivot zones on the lower side, it means only 20% of weeks get there. And if you're in a high time frame bullish uptrend, then more often than not, these zones are for buying. So if we leave that zone, that would be an epic opportunity, in my opinion, because then you apply some normal TA. So for example, here, if you followed me long enough, you know that I was saying, no, we're gonna consolidate for a couple more months. So this is not the low. But here I'm saying, okay, the same was here. Like this was not the low. We were looking for lower here as well, or at least a little bit more consolidation. But here now you had a little bit longer consolidation. You have already a clearly defined range, and now price is going below this. So if we reach those pivot zone lows, then you have time, place, TA, everything lining up, and then that could make for a very, very, very nice bottom. So I peeled on this one, but like I said, I think we have some time here. So with that said, I want to go on to the next one, which is Ethereum, which has already reached the edge of that pivot zone. So first, let me recap Ethereum here, because also Ethereum is playing out nicely, right? I said last week, okay, this is most likely to happen, right? Because it was at local range highs, Bitcoin was at local range highs. Like everyone's freaking out now, that this is happening, or a lot of people are freaking out. But honestly, like it is pretty, we were at local range highs here. 2,800 is clear resistance. And then Bitcoin was also at local range highs at the same time, right? Because Bitcoin was here at this time. So it's really not that weird that this is happening, or somewhere here. It's really not that weird that this was happening, because you have two of the main assets at resistance, plus we have that liquidity magnet down below. So if you're at resistance at range highs, then it makes more sense to target lower than this to target higher. So right now this is obviously playing out, and the question is, can we start looking for longs? And then we get the same thing. We can put on our pivot zones right here on the weekly, and here we go. We have just breached that weekly P2 zone. So once again, I want to show you, we can go over, okay, what happened the last times we breached those pivot zones. So here, well, it speaks for itself, right? We had a nice bounce so far. I would expect this low to hold. Here, we had a very nice bounce as well, but obviously we continue downwards. And this is where I'd say, okay, you need to, so it's a nice mean reversion still, but you need to take some basic TA gets a long way. So if you're here in the range, then what happened here, we hit the top of the range. Well, actually we hit it here, and then we go down. So you're in a rotation towards the lows of the range at this point, right? Makes sense, because range high, what comes next, range lows. So then obviously you're not expecting a massive follow through, even though you did get a nice reversal there. This actually didn't leave the P2 zone because it was at the start of the week. Here, same thing, right? We leave. So let me just mark them out. So nice reversal there, but didn't leave to massiveness. Here we left the range, or we entered back in the range. So this is once again an impulsive stage, right? Because we're going from this range right here up towards the range highs. So obviously in an impulsive stage, you don't want to use the mean reversion strategy. But if we go then down further, the last time something similar happened, P2 zone low right here, which marked the bottom of that range. Here, bottom of the range on the P2 zone, nice reversal. I'm just looking at, this was also a nice reversal, but I want to pay more attention towards the lows being hit, low being hit here as well. You can see that very often they lead to the reversals, right? Especially because high time frame were bullish. Anyway, the main point I'm trying to make is that you want to see these kind of things happen at logical places, right? At logical places, which means in discounted areas. What is a discounted area? Like, and the context is important, right? Because this is a discounted area because it's the bottom of the range, but we just came out of this massive manipulation phase moving up, right? Back into the range. So then obviously this is coming from a place of strength, right? This is not coming from a place of strength, or at least not from a place of, this is obviously the opposite scenario, but this is not coming from a place of, how do you say it? Extreme weakness, I would say, because I'm not saying price is looking strong, that's why I'm looking for words, but obviously we just finished a rotation from the highs of the range up to the lows of the range. We're not deviating below this range low right here or somewhere in those discounted areas. So this is obviously the place where you want to get bullish, right? Whereas here we were at the same place where we just already had that manipulation, then broke out. So then obviously this is the context here is bullish. Right now, the context, obviously there's no sign of strength yet, right? It's still looking bearish, but we are now at range lows after rotation. And this is the place we have that 0.5 fill of this wick. Finally, we're leaving the P2 zone low. We know that these are good mean reversion targets. So at the very least, you're looking for a long or a buy here, followed by a move back up. Finally, this is not only happening on Ethereum, this is also happening on Solana. We also hit the P2 zone low right now for the first time, except for this one. I prefer to see it like actually leave the P2 zone. I notice these are stronger, but you know, let's take a good look at just when it actually left the P2 zones the last time. This was a tap, doesn't really count. Here it left P2 zone, right? Followed by a nice retracement back up here. Well, let's just take all of them. Tap, small tap, small reversal, but kept on going down there. Tap. Well, there's actually this entire thing here, left P2 zone. Right here, we could be, I'm just looking at the lows here because we are in a bullish environment. Their reversal on the high. Those, I think, are the last times we actually hit them, because this is not actually a tap because it's on the new pivot zone. Here it tapped, didn't work. But once again, you know, this is also in an impulsive stage right here that in the end failed. So this is not where you want to get against. So the only question here on Solana is like, is this an impulsive stage? Like, I think Ethereum looks a lot better right now than Solana. Let me get those things off. So I do think Ethereum looks a lot better than Solana because it's much more range bound, at least. Like, Ethereum is the most range bound asset there is right now. Yeah, so I'm not too sure. I would definitely wait with Solana, but regardless, we are leaving this P2 zone. So, you know, those are oversold areas, right? Oversold areas, especially in bull markets. And yes, I do still believe we're in a bull market, unlike, you know, what crypto Twitter will make you believe. So, you know, my main plan is the same for all of them. We're hitting these important zones. So I'm going to look for reversals here. I'm going to wait. I don't expect that to happen like this, but especially when it happens this early in the week, then oftentimes, you know, you see this followed by a reversal. So I do expect this to take some time, but I do expect that we're gonna like fill in some kind of bottom here in the next 2 weeks, so to say. Same for Bitcoin, you know, same thing. I would like the Bitcoin go a little bit lower. I mean, if something like this could happen, then that would make for an awesome low, and we can continue our trajectory back up towards range highs. So this is where we remain a little bit patient, but we start looking for reversals towards range highs on Bitcoin, Ethereum. Solana, I'm not so sure. I also think, you know, memes have had their run. You can also see that, yeah, Sol ETH is bleeding quite a bit. Oh, this is Sol Bitcoin. Yeah, breaking down. Sol ETH, pretty brutal. So yeah, this like Solana is definitely the weakest asset right now of the big three, right? So the main thing with these pivot zones is that if you want this to successfully play out, then what you want to be is in a mean reversion environment, because this is a mean reversion strategy, right? So you don't do that in impulsive stages. And I think Ethereum is definitely in a mean reversion environment, right? Bitcoin is definitely in a mean reversion environment. Solana, I'm not so sure. So, you know, all in all, things looking good. Still, right, we're not going to be bearish at range lows. Unlike crypto Twitter, this is where we start looking for opportunities for reversals towards the upside and the continuation of the bull run, new all-time highs and beyond. So, you know, no stress, nothing going on, nothing. Plan is just playing out so far, and obviously, you know, if price really drops the ball and keeps on tanking tremendously, then we'll revise from there. But so far, I don't see any significant reasons for panic, right? So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed that video. Patiently waiting, looking for bottoms to form at these areas before higher. All right, guys, thanks very much. See you on the next one.